Frederick Valentich's final radio transmission lasted exactly 4 minutes and 28 seconds. He described a metallic object hovering above his Cessna, performing maneuvers no known aircraft could execute, then silence. For 46 years, investigators insisted he crashed due to disorientation. Case closed. What they found in Bass Strait this week changes everything. The wreckage shows impact damage that defies physics. The cockpit tells a story that no crash investigator wants to acknowledge. Frederick Valentich wasn't just another weekend pilot. At 20 years old, he had accumulated over 150 flight hours and held a Class 4 instrument rating. He was methodical, safety-conscious, and had flown the Melbourne to King Island route multiple times. October 21st, 1978 was a perfect flying day. Clear skies, light winds, excellent visibility. Valentich had filed a flight plan for a routine training flight to King Island and Bass Strait. The 125-mile journey should have taken 90 minutes. His Cessna 182, registration VH-DSJ, was a reliable 4-seat aircraft. Recently serviced, fully fueled, equipped with standard navigation equipment. There was no reason to expect anything unusual. By 1978, Bass Strait had earned a reputation among pilots, not for danger, but for strange sightings. Multiple aviators had reported unusual aerial phenomena in the area. Most kept quiet. Those who spoke publicly faced ridicule from aviation authorities. Valentich was different. He was fascinated by UFO reports and had applied to join the Royal Australian Air Force, hoping to investigate such phenomena professionally. His friends knew he carried UFO magazines in his flight bag and studied every reported sighting. What none of them knew was that his next flight would make him part of the mystery he'd been trying to solve. At 6:19 p.m., Valentich departed Moorabbin Airport bound for King Island. The flight plan was simple: fly direct across Bass Strait, land at King Island Airport, then return to Melbourne. Weather conditions were ideal. The sun was setting, but visibility remained excellent. Air traffic was light. Melbourne Flight Service was monitoring his progress. Valentich climbed to 4,500 feet and settled into cruise flight. His Cessna's engine ran smoothly. Navigation was straightforward. Follow the coastline south, then strike out across the strait toward King Island's beacon. At 7:06 p.m., he made his scheduled position report. Everything was normal. He was on course, on time, with no problems to report. 12 minutes later, his voice would be heard for the last time. The young pilot who had dreamed of investigating UFO phenomena was about to become the subject of Australia's most enduring aviation mystery. After Valentich failed to arrive at King Island, the Department of Transport launched a comprehensive investigation. Search and rescue operations scoured Bass Strait for 5 days. No wreckage was found. The official report, released in 1982, was definitive. Valentich had become spatially disoriented during the flight. Flying at dusk over water, he had lost visual reference to the horizon. The aircraft, he reported, was likely his own reflection in the water, inverted due to his disorientation. The metallic object performing impossible maneuvers. Venus, visible in the western sky that evening. The engine problems he described, consistent with carburetor icing common in Cessna aircraft under certain atmospheric conditions. Investigators dismissed his UFO interest as evidence of a predisposed mindset that influenced his perceptions during the emergency. They concluded he had crashed into Bass Strait due to pilot error. Case closed. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau accepted this determination. Aviation authorities filed the incident under pilot disorientation. Flight training programs used Valentich's case as an example of how spatial disorientation kills pilots. For 46 years, no one questioned the official findings. The transcript of his final transmission was archived. The search was called off. Frederick Valentich became another statistic in aviation safety records. But the wreckage discovered this week shows something that investigators either missed or chose to ignore. Bass Strait is not a forgiving place to search for wreckage. The waterway between mainland Australia and Tasmania stretches 150 miles at its widest point, with depths reaching 250 feet. Strong currents, unpredictable weather, and rocky seafloor make underwater operations extremely challenging. Despite these obstacles, private investigators and UFO researchers never stopped looking. They organized expeditions, hired sonar equipment, and spent decades scanning the strait's floor. Every anomaly was investigated. Every metallic return was examined. Technology evolved. Side-scan sonar improved. Remotely operated vehicles became more sophisticated. Each advancement brought new hope that Valentich's Cessna might finally be found. Then the search started, claiming resources and credibility. Expeditions returned empty-handed. Promising sonar contacts turned out to be rocks or fishing debris. The aviation community grew skeptical of continued efforts, until advanced deep-water scanning technology finally reached Bass Strait. In 2024, 46 years after Valentich's disappearance, a commercial marine survey team working in Bass Strait detected an anomalous sonar return. The signature was consistent with aircraft wreckage at 180 feet depth. Technical divers descended to investigate. What they found on the seafloor was unmistakably a Cessna 182. The registration numbers, though corroded, were still visible. VH-DSJ. Frederick Valentich's aircraft had been located. Initial examination revealed something unexpected. The aircraft's condition did not match the official explanation of spatial disorientation and controlled flight into water. The damage patterns were wrong. The debris field was inconsistent with a typical crash. Most disturbing of all, the cockpit configuration suggested Valentich had been conscious and attempting to control the aircraft until the moment of impact. What investigators found in that wreckage would challenge 46 years of official conclusions and reignite one of aviation's most controversial mysteries. The forensic analysis of VHDSJ's wreckage contradicted the official investigation at every critical point. The impact damage showed the aircraft had struck the water in a controlled descent, not the chaotic spiral expected from spatial disorientation. The control surfaces were positioned for normal flight. The landing gear was retracted. Valentich had been flying the aircraft normally when something catastrophic occurred. The engine examination revealed no evidence of carburetor icing. The power plant had been running normally at impact. Fuel samples from the tanks showed no contamination. The aircraft's mechanical systems had been functioning properly. Most significantly, the cockpit damage patterns defied conventional crash analysis. The roof was compressed downward with tremendous force, but the sides remained relatively intact. This suggested an impact from above, not below. Metallurgical analysis of the fuselage revealed something even more disturbing. Sections of the aircraft showed heat damage inconsistent with post-crash fire. The metal had been subjected to intense, focused energy that had partially melted aluminum components. The radio equipment told its own story. The transmitter was found in the on position, suggesting Valentich had been attempting to communicate when the aircraft went down. The antenna system showed damage that could explain why his transmission had cut to static so abruptly. The evidence painted a picture completely at odds with the spatial disorientation theory. Valentich had been flying normally when something had intercepted his aircraft. The damage pattern suggested an external force had acted upon the Cessna with devastating effect. For 46 years, Guido Valentich had lived with the official explanation of his son's death. Pilot error, spatial disorientation, the implication that Frederick had made a fatal mistake that cost him his life. When the wreckage was finally recovered, Guido Valentich was among the first to examine the evidence. The 92-year-old father had waited nearly half a century for answers about his son's fate. The forensic findings vindicated what the family had always believed. Frederick had been a competent pilot who had encountered something beyond his control. The physical evidence proved he had not crashed due to disorientation or pilot error. Aviation investigators who had dismissed the case for decades were forced to reconsider their conclusions. The wreckage contradicted fundamental assumptions about what had happened that October evening. The revelation divided the aviation community. Some investigators acknowledged that the official explanation had been inadequate. Others maintained that unusual damage patterns could be explained by the aircraft's 46 years underwater. VHDSJ now sits in a secure hangar outside Melbourne, every piece catalogued and preserved. The aircraft that vanished into mystery has become physical evidence in one of aviation's most controversial cases. The official investigation that concluded with spatial disorientation has been quietly reopened. New evidence demands new explanations. The case that was closed for 46 years is active once again. Frederick Valentich was 20 years old when he disappeared. He had dreamed of joining the Air Force and investigating unexplained aerial phenomena professionally. Instead, he became the subject of the mystery he had hoped to solve. The wreckage proves he was not disoriented. He was not hallucinating. He was describing something real, something that left physical evidence on his aircraft before sending it to the bottom of Bass Strait. Bass Strait keeps its secrets reluctantly. It held Frederick Valentich's Cessna for 46 years before surrendering it to the surface. The aircraft has returned with evidence that challenges everything we thought we knew about that October night. The mystery is not solved. It has simply moved from speculation to forensic analysis. The questions remain, but now they are grounded in physical evidence rather than fading memories.